isn't going to work today, folks. Let's take a minute here. I got these new candle followers from the bishop, and I tried to put them on here, and I'm getting myself in a mess. Okay, we'll go out without that one. Put the old one back on. Maybe not. There we go. Going to have a delayed start today. Number one, the candles. And next is going to be the wine. I forgot to prepare the wine. Be right back. Okay, good day. How is everybody? Okay. So today is Thursday, August? It's not August. I saw Aussie. That's what got me confused. That was my own doing. Today is January 4th, Thursday, January 4th, 2024. And welcome, by the way, Garrett, if you're watching or watching later, because I know he's in California as well, and it's very early. Your rosaries went out yesterday with some holy water and a couple of scapulars. And again, I sent some out to Florida a couple of weeks ago. And they're just doing quite well. And CJ, thank you for that, because they do like your rosaries. Today we're going to continue with justice, and there's some more jewels in here I'm going to talk a little bit about. And also, it'll be interesting. We talk about a judge. So, all right, let's see what else I forgot, or if I'm all set. I think we're good to go. We are. Please pardon me just a second while I take care of my runny nose. Let's have morning prayers. In nomine Deum Matronum Nostrae et Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. And speaking of contemplation, it is on my schedule. Just now I'm preparing for Florida. So I was thinking maybe I could find a nice spot in Florida to do a contemplation video, which would be nice. It will be a little bit warmer. We're expecting snow here this coming Sunday. They're making it out to be a big thing. I think we're getting 2 inches. Big whoopee. Okay, let us place ourselves now in the presence of God and in Catholic contemplation humbly adore the Trinitarian Theophany. Most holy and venerable Trinity, one God in 3 divine beings, I believe that thou art here present. I venerate thee with the deepest humility. I render to thee with my whole heart the homage which is due to thee. O God, relying on thine infinite goodness and promises, I hope to obtain the pardon of my sins, the help of thy grace, and life everlasting, through the merits of Deum Matronam Nostrae and Deum Iesum Christum. O God, I love thee above all things with my whole heart and soul, because thou art all good and worthy of all love. I love my neighbor as myself for love of thee, and I forgive all who have injured me and ask pardon of all whom I have injured. Let us thank God for the many graces that we receive and offer ourselves and our sufferings up to the Trinitarian Theophany. O God, I most humbly thank thee for all the favors thou hast bestowed upon me to the present moment. It is again thanks to thy bounty that I should live to see this day, and I desire to employ it solely in thy service. I consecrate to thee all my thoughts, words, actions, and sufferings of this day. Sanctify them, O God, that there may be none that is not animated by thy love, or that would not tend to thy greater glory. Let us make a firm resolution to avoid evil and to do good, and let us beg of God the graces which are necessary to us. O God, thou knowest my weakness, and that I am unable to do anything good without the help of thy grace. Deny me not thy grace, O God, proportionate to my necessities. Give me strength to avoid everything which thou forbiddest, to practice the good which thou hast commanded, and enable me patiently to bear all the trials which it may please thee to send me. O God, Our Lady, O Holy Mother of God, I place myself under thy protection. I throw myself with confidence into the arms of thy compassion. Be to me, O Mother of Mercy, my refuge in distress, my consolation in suffering, now and at the hour of my death. O my God, I am heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins, because I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell. But most of all, because I have offended thee, my God, who art good and deserving of all my love, I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. When I was first beginning my contemplation journey or sojourn, one of the things that I would do is I would close my eyes and pretend that I was a baby again, and that I was in the arms of God Our Lady, and she was comforting me. That is one of the most peaceful and innocent times in our lives. And so if we can move ourselves back to that point and forget everything else going around us in the world, that will help again bring us closer to God once again and home once again. Oops, let's leave that out. Okay, subchapter Heroic Justice in the chapter about heroic degrees of moral virtues. The justice in question here is not justice in the broad sense of the term, which designates the totality of the virtues. The justice we are speaking of is the special virtue inclining our will always to render every man his due. Thus, commutative justice establishes, according to just right, order between individuals by regulating exchanges. It's a little deep here. Distributive justice establishes order in society by distributing congruously to individuals goods of general utility, advantages, and duties. Legal or social justice establishes just laws in view of the common good and sees to their observance. Lastly, equity observes the soul of laws. It says spirit, but I'm going to say soul of laws, even more than the letter, especially in exceptional cases where the rigorous application of the letter of legality would be too rigid and inhuman. To form an idea of perfect justice, either acquired or infused, we must bear in mind that this virtue forbids not only theft and fraud, but also lying or any voluntary word opposed to the truth, hypocrisy, simulation, the violation of a secret, insult to the honor or reputation of our neighbor by calumny, slander, or action. It also forbids rash judgment, derision, and raillery, which unduly disparage our neighbor. Okay, and this is where, I'm just going to interrupt here, this is where it's important to have a Catholic monarchy and society. Okay, because in the world today, we're not ruled by a Catholic monarchy. And hence we have religions that actually, and I can't even call them religions because they're not worshiping God. Okay, they're worshiping Satan. But these other sects or occult groups believe and teach that it's okay to lie to those outside of their group. So the followers, usually caught in some sort of vice, are naive and innocent in the fact that they're being taught this crazy type of life, and that it's okay, and it's now infecting all of society, that it's okay to lie, okay, as long as you're not harmed. The liar isn't harmed by it, or you don't lose money as a result, or something silly like that. So this is why we're crashing so quickly. However, there is a great return for desire, the desire to return to the truth, because it's much, much more peaceful. Okay, we continue. Our justice often has some alloy, and an alloy meaning here that there's some residue, okay, in our justice, when it is practiced at least partially from interested motives. For example, when a person pays a portion of his debts in order to avoid the costs of a lawsuit, or when he avoids lying partly because of the annoying consequences that might result from the lie. Okay, and it's hard to think of this one without being compassionate to the debtor here, because we are, with this saying here, when a person pays a portion of his debts in order to avoid the costs of a lawsuit. The thing here is with that is that today, most people have more debt. 10 times more debt than they have savings. Okay, so in this case, that's a practical thing in order to pay his debts, to just enough to avoid it, because he has to feed his family. And again, this is because we don't have a Catholic society and a Catholic monarchy. Okay, there will be no usury, etc. Okay, justice, therefore, needs to be purified from all inferior alloy, just as the other virtues do. So, get back to this portion of the debts comment here and statement. This is presuming that the person or the individual or the man or the woman has the savings in order to pay off the entire debt, but just pays enough to avoid the lawsuit. In other words, they're greedy. They're holding on to, they're not paying their just debts. Okay. Perfect justice is necessary for those who aspire to close union with God, because they should become irreproachable in their dealings with others and practice toward them all the duties of justice and charity. The perfect man who attains to close union with God should exercise heroic justice in all its forms, equity included. He should perfectly observe all divine and human laws, ecclesiastical and civil. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that coming ahead. If he must make a distribution of goods or offices, he should do so in proportion to the merits of each one, rising above excessively individual considerations of relationship or friendship. He should avoid all, even the slightest, injustice or injury to anyone. Okay. Again, we're presuming that there is this writer is presuming that there is a more than that there is a Catholic society, at least a huge influence of one in government, etc. Heroic justice is especially manifest when it is very difficult to harmonize it with certain deeply rooted affections. For example, when the father of a family, who is at the same time a magistrate, must decide against his grievously guilty son. Or again, when a superior must send a very dear spiritual son to a distant and perilous post. Okay, that is the end of the subchapter on justice, heroic degree of justice. Okay, we'll continue on this very short one here. The heroic degree of the religious virtues. The virtue of religion appears in a heroic degree when a person practices his duties in spite of sharp opposition from his family or others. Many of us are experiencing this right now. Okay. It appears also in the exact observance of the vow of the most perfect, or again in the foundation of a religious family in the midst of the great difficulties which generally accompany such a work. Heroic poverty renounces everything and is content with what is strictly necessary in order to resemble Dem Jesum Christum, who had not whereon to lay his head. He who desires nothing lacks nothing. Thereby he is soulfully rich and sanctified. Heroic chastity is manifest especially in perpetual virginity, when in the flesh one lives an entirely spiritual life, soulful life, and ends by forgetting every disorder of the senses by dint of victory. Lastly, heroic obedience is shown by perfect abnegation of self-will, when a person does nothing, so to speak, without consulting his superiors, when he obeys all his superiors, whoever they may be, even though they may be only moderately kind or even ill-willed. At times, obedience to very difficult orders is required. At such a time, great faith is needed to see God himself in that superior, who is God's intermediary and who speaks in God's name. I'm going to stop here really quick. And again, heroic obedience does not include false obedience. Okay, now here's where, again, years ago, when I learned about false obedience, and that is one of those things that the church was very quiet about, okay? Because when you know something is wrong, okay, your superior is wrong, okay? If I mean, I should say, if they're following something wrong, you know it's wrong, okay? You are not obligated to obey according to God, okay? So there's false obedience is actually a sin, okay? And it's one of the vices of like cowardice, okay? Because it takes great strength to resist those quote unquote orders. I was just following orders. Okay. It is a moment of dark night, which, if well traversed, leads to a great light. For Deum Jesum Christum richly rewards with his graces of light, strength, and love those who thus obey. Evidently, the heroic degree of the moral virtues places them more and more in the service of charity and prepares the soul for a very close union with God, which we will discuss in the following chapter. Okay, so tomorrow we will begin chapter 47, the love of Deum Jesum Christum and Deum Matronam Nostrae in a unitive way. Okay, and I wanted to read this footnote really quick back here. The history of the church recalls the memory of some religious who had great zeal, the stuff of sanctity, terrible trials, but who seemed to have lacked heroic obedience to superiors, whose personal lives left much to be desired. Whatever be the merits of these servants of God, their beatification will never be considered. And again, what I'm going to comment here is that many of those are saints, okay, because they didn't obey those church superiors, because the history of the church is replete with infiltrators and false teachers. Okay, so I think it's more important to follow the virtues, and God will give you the insight on what would be a false obedience. Okay, what would be a true obedient act. All right, let's get started with the Mass. Deum vobiscum et quoque apud te. Oremus. O God, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, grant to the souls of thy servants and handmaids the remission of all their sins, that they may obtain by loving prayers the forgiveness which they have always desired, who livest and reignest with thee, one God, forever and ever. Suscipe Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum hoc immaculatum hostium, quam ego indinius famulos tuos offerditibi Deum eum vivum et verum, pro unim individibus peccatis et offensionibus et negligentis meis, et pro omnibus circumstantibus, sed pro omnibus fidelibus catalocorum vivis aquae defunctis ut mihi et illis proficiat ad salutem. Deum qui humanae substantiae dignitate mirabidit condidisi et mirabidus reformaste da nubis perihus aqua divinimis Deum eis divinitatis esse consortis qui divinitatis nostrae, fieri dignatis est patriceps Deum Jesum Christum Filium, qui Deum vivit et reinat, in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Offerimus tibi Deum calicem salutaris tuum da peccatis clementiam, ut ec spectu divini majestatis Tue pro nostra totius mundus salute, cum odore suavitatis ascendat. In spiritu humilitatis et in anima quertrito suscipiam arate Deum Iesum Christum, et sequiet sacrificium nostrum ec spectu tu hodie, ut placia tibi Deum matronam nostre, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Veni sanctificator, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, et benedicite blata prosequendo, et accepere, hoc sacrificium tuo sanctum nomini preparatum. Suscipe Sancta Trinitas, anc oblationem quam tibi efferimus, a memoriam passionis, resurrectionis et ascensionis, Deum Iesum Christum, et in honorem Deum matronam nostri et Papa Pete Sanctorum, et Historum et omnium Sanctorum, ut idis proficiet ad honorem nobis autem et salutem, et ili pro nobis intercedere, et in intercedis, quorum memoriam agimus in tedis, per innum Christum Deum nostrum. Orate, ut meum ec vestrum sacrificium acceptabile fiat ab Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Suscipiat Deum Iesum Christum, sacrificium de manibus tuis, et laudam et gloriam nomini sui ad utiditatem quoque nostrum totiusque ecclesiae sui sanctae. Deum vobiscum, quoque per te surusum corda, habemus a Deum, gratias agamus Deum nostrum, dignum et justum est. Te igitur clementissimi Mater et Pater, Deum Matronum Nostre, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per Deum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum, Deum Nostre, supplitis rogamus ac petimus, ut ecipte bes et benedicas ex sanctam sacrificium ilibata. In primis quae tibi efferimus pro ecclesiam tuam sanctam catholicam, quam pacificare custodire ad honore, et regere dignitas toto veterarum atque catholicae. Memento Deum famulorum tuorum. We pray for the sick and the suffering. We especially pray for Anne Bultink, Katie, Gage, Robert Charles Dosco, Ruth, Mark Jr., Casey, Father Henry Finch, Father Warren, Maria Josephina Mose, Henry, Barbara, Benedict, and Robert Santa Croce. We pray for Mr. Nobody, the Cantu and Duarte families, Jenna, Lena, Lori, Aaron and family, Maria and the Lineweber family, John Cahill, the Dasco, Nye, Tafour, Began, and Wolf families. We pray for Mr. Nobody to receive the funding and strength needed to complete the first Sede Vacantis Catholic Council office in Monastery of Illinois. We pray for an end to all governmental allowance or sanctioning of abortion, transgenderism, transhumanism, child trafficking, child abuse of any kind, anywhere, any place, or time. We pray for the establishment of a Catholic monarchy with a sound Catholic system of labor, human value, and medium of exchange, with no usury. We ask the intention of our rosaries in this Mass to destroy the Church of Rome that has lost its authority and is run by the sect of Jews and Freemasons. I also ask you to wake up the Catholics that still follow the authority of the Vatican and to restore the lost faith of the Vatican II Catholics. We ask for courageous men to step forward as leaders of this Catholic society, to lead heroically with heroic virtues. We ask that gay quote-unquote marriage be banned, as that is the opposite. We ask for a reversal of the feminist ideology and a return to godly femininity, to respect natural law, and that women understand that raising traditional Catholic families is a very high ideal and a necessity for sustaining a Catholic society. We ask that all pornography be stopped and the OnlyFans platform be banned. And again, the only reason these things exist is because we do not have a Catholic society and or monarchy. All these things we ask in accordance with God's holy and divine will. Et omnium circumstantium quorum tibi fides cognita est et nota devotio, pro quibus tibi afferimus, verqui tibi offront hoc sacrificium laudis, pro se suisque omnibus, pro redemptione animarum suarum, pro spe salutis et calamitatis suae, tibi credunt vota sua aeternam Deum vivo et vero, communicantes et memorantes in primis, gloriose semper Deum maternam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et beatorum martyrium torum Papa Sancti Petri, et Sancti Lucia, et Sancti Jacinta, et Sancti Francisco, Sancti Juan Diego, et omnium sanctorum torum quorum meritis praetibusque concedas ut in omnibus, protectiones Tuae monam exidio per inum Christum Deum nostrum, quam oblationem de Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum in omnibus consecratum acceptabilem perficere dineris et nobis corpum, et sanguinem fiat didictissimi filium Tuum Deum Iesum Christum, qui pridie quam pateretor recepit panem in sancta sacramentis manus suas, et derivatis oculis in caelum ate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum suum omnipotentem tibi gratias agens consecravit, fregit dedique lumnis sui dicens accipit et mandocate ex hoc omnes. Hoc est enim corpus meum. Simili modo postquam ceremonias accipiens et hunc preclaram calicem in sancta sacramentis manus suus et in tibi gratias agens. Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, consecravit dedique lumnis sui dicens, accipite et bibite ex eo omnes. Hic est enim calix sanguinis mei, mysterium fidei, quae pro nobis et pro multis affondetur in remissionem peccatorum, et quod est cum perficeritis in memoria facietis. Unde et memoris Deum nos servituis et plebs tua sancta justum Christum filium tuum, Deum nostre tambe et passiones nec non et benferis resurrectionis, sed in celos gloriose ascensionis offerimus preclare majestatitudi tuis donis actatis, superquae propitio axere novutur respicieri digneris. Supplices te ragamus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum ibi hec preferibus manus tuum ut quod, execataris participationem sacrosanctum Deum Filium Tuum, corpus et sanguinem sinceremus omni benedictione celesti et gratia Dei per amor per inum Christum Deum nostrae. We pray for those who have died, and we especially pray for Jimmy Andres, my godfather, for whom this Mass is being offered. Ipsis Deum et omnibus in Christum crescentibus, locum refugere lucis et pacis, ut odo gesta praecamur per inum Christum Deum nostrum, per quem hic omnia Deum Iesum Christum semper bono creas, sanctificas, vivificas, benedictis et prestas nobis. Per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso, est ibi Deum Patrum omnipotente in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, omnis honor et gloria. Ave Dea, matronam nostrae, gratia plena Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum tecum. Dea matronam nostrae, matronam Deum Iesum Christum, misericordia nobis, peccatoribus nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Libera nos quae sumus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum ab omnibus malis, praeteritis praesentibus et futuris. et intercedente beate gloriosa semper Dei Matronam nostrae, cum Papa Petrum Sanctorum et omnibus sanctis da propitiis pacem in diebus nostris. Ut obi misericordiae Tue eduiti de peccato, simul semper liberi et omni perturbationis securi. Per iendum Deum nostrum, Iesum Christum filium Tuum Deum nostrum, qui tecum vivet et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per aeternam. Pax Deum Iesum Christum sit semper vobiscum, et quoque apud Te, ecum ex Deo consecratio copris et sanguinis Deum Iesum Christum fiat et impenibus nobis in et salutem aeternam. Pax Tecum et quoque apud Te. Deum Iesum Christum, qui ex voluntate Deum Matronam nostrae, quaperante Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per mortem Tuam unum vivificasti, libera me per hoc sacro sanctum corpus et sanguinum Tuum ab omnibus iniquitatibus meis, et universis malis et facme Tui semper inharare mandatis, et atinum quam separare permittas, qui cum eodem Deum Matronam nostrae et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum vivis arenam aeternam, perceptio corporis Tui Deum Iesum Christum, quod ego in inius sumere presumo, non mihi proveniat in indicium condonationem, sed pro tu pietate prosit mihi ad tutum mentem metis corporis, et ad me delam percipiandum qui vivis serenas, cum Deum Matronam nostrae, in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Panem celestum accipiem et nomen Deum Iesum Christum invocabo. Deum Matronam nostrae non sunt dignius, ut intercedete meis in tantum verbis operationem mea. Deum Iesum Christum non sunt dignius, ut intercedete meis in tantum verbis operationem mea. Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum non sunt dignius, ut intercedete meis in tantum verbis operationem mea. Corpus Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima meam. Quid dur tribuum Deum Iesum Christum, pro omnibus queritur mihi, calicem salutaris accipiem et nomen Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum invocabo. Laudans invocabo Deum Matronam nostrae et ab inimicis meis salvus ero. Sanguis Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima meam. Quod ore subsimus Deum Iesum Christum piedamente capiamus et timore et tempore fiat nobis remedium sempiternam. Corpus tuum Deum Iesum Christum, quod samse sanguis quem petaveat et viscus meis, presta ut in menor nemine, scelana macula quem purat sancta officiana sacramenta. Deum vobiscum, quoque pote. Oremus. May the prayer of thy suppliants profit the souls of thy servants and handmaids who beseech thee, O God, that thou mayest free them from all sins and make them sharers in thy redemption, who livest and reignest with thee, one God, forever and ever. Deum vobiscum, quoque pote. Ite mise est Deum gratia. Placia tibi sancta Trinitam obsequium servitutis mei, e presta ut sacrificium, cor oculis tuae majestatis in nus obtuditivis et taurem equet omnibus. Procubus irut octulis sit miserante propitiabile per Christum Deum nostrum. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deum, Matronam et Filium et Spiritum Sanctum, Deum Matronam Nostrae et Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gratias. O God, I believe, I venerate, I hope, and I love thee. I beg of thee pardon for those who do not believe, do not venerate, do not hope, and do not love thee. Most holy Trinitarian Theophany, I venerate thee profoundly, and I offer to thee the most precious body, blood, soul, and divinity of God Jesus Christ, who was, is, and ever shall be, present here in reparation for the outrages, sacrileges, and indifference by which he himself is offended, and through the infinite merits of his most sacred heart, and the immaculate heart of God our Lady, who was, is, and ever shall be, I beg of thee the conversion of poor sinners. In nomine Deum Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Thank you for coming and attending and meditating and contemplating in a Catholic fashion. For those of you who are new, who are just watching, notice we don't use the word Christian. Okay, Catholics are not Christians. If you're not sure about that one, then please go to visit the website ourladyisgod.com. And I wanted you also to contemplate today that this is the only Mass in the world here that places God Our Lady back in position where she was taken from 2,000 years ago, probably, maybe a little bit less. But in any case, that's how important this work is. Okay, and that's a great topic to contemplate on. All right, we will see you tomorrow, same time, and yeah, tomorrow's TDIF. Have a great day. Please go and sanctify all those who you meet.